Hi everyone, welcome back. In this lecture, we'll create a Spring Boot REST API that returns a list as a JSON to the client. Well, let's go to IntelliJ IDEA. And in previous lecture, we have created a REST API that returns a student object as a JSON to the client. In this lecture, we'll write a REST API that returns a list of students as a JSON to the client. So go to student controller class, and within a student controller class, we are going to write the REST API. So here, let's first create the Java method that returns a list of students, and then we'll make that Java method as a REST API by using Spring annotations. So here just type public and then return type of the method as a list of type student. Alright, and next let's give method name as get students. Let me first create a list of type student and let's call it as students equal to new array list. And next let's add a student to this list. So here students dot add student and then new student. Let's give id as a 1 and then first name Ramesh and then last name Padatari. Next let's add one more student, students dot add and then new student, and let's pass value to this constructor, id as a 2 and then first name let's say Umesh and last name let's say Padatari. Perfect. Next let's go ahead and let's add one more student. Let's say student dot, let's call add method and then new student, and let's pass value to the constructor, id as a 3 and then first name let's say Ram and then last name let's say Jadhav. Next let's add one more student, students dot add and then new student, and let's give id as a 4 and then first name as a Sanjay and let's give last name as a Pawar. Perfect. Now we have added 4 students to the students list. Next let's return this students object. Perfect. Now we have created a simple get students Java method. It returns a list of students. Next let's make this get students method as a REST API by using Spring annotation. Let's go ahead and let's annotate this method with @getMapping annotation. Well, we use @getMapping annotation to map the incoming HTTP GET request to this method, and this method should return a list of students as a JSON to the client. Next let's configure the URL for this REST API. So here let's pass students. So this is going to be a students because this REST API returns a list of students. So whenever a client want to call this REST API, then client have to use this URL. For example, localhost :8080/students. Alright, perfect. Now let's go and let's run our Spring Boot application and let us test this REST API. So let me start the Spring Boot application. Well, notice here our Spring Boot application is up and running in embedded Tomcat server on port 8080. So let me copy this URL, and this REST API is going to handle HTTP GET request. So we can make a GET request from the browser. So let's go to browser and in a new tab just paste this URL and hit enter, and there we go. You can able to see the client got a response that is a list of students in a JSON format. This is how we create a Spring Boot REST API that returns a list in a JSON format. Alright, great. I will see you in the next lecture.